Okay, thank you everybody for coming to the Bug Bounty Village. Quick call out, please play our CTF if you are interested in hacking something. It's very cool, CTF creators are right behind you. Okay, I'm gonna kick it off to Jerónimo.
Thank you, Harley. My name is Jerónimo. For those of you who I haven't met, I am with TikTok's global security organization. I'm specifically on the security advocacy team, which means a lot of things. We do a lot of different work, but my favorite kind of work is when we get to be here at DEFCON. We get to throw a party like we did last night with some of our favorite hackers. TikTok has had a bug bounty program for the last 5 years, and we are proud to try to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit better every single year. We are proud to try to learn from this community and make it a feedback loop that's constant. Last year we had our first true live hacking event just for TikTok. Ben can tell you all about that one. And we're having another one this year. We'll be in Singapore in October, and it's just a partnership that we really value. But as TikTok is also about creators and folks who create content, who share what they know, who build audiences, build communities online, just like we're all building community here at DEFCON. So when I was talking to Harley and Ariel about the panel that we wanted to host, I said, I am fascinated by the people who can do both of these things, who can create content and be bug bounty hunters. I think both of these things take so much time, they take so much creativity, they take so much effort. It is unfathomable to me how someone can do one of those two things, but how you all here do both of those is beyond my comprehension. So I'm so excited to have this conversation here today. We have three of the best on stage. I want y'all to introduce yourselves. I'm sure most people here know who you are, but if you can just start with giving a brief intro, what you do, what your channels are, and yeah, we'll kick it off there.
Yeah, dude. I'm Justin Gardner, aka Rhynorater. I'm with the Critical Thinking Bug Bounty podcast. Thank you guys so much for the warm welcome today. You guys have been awesome. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. You nailed it. With Bug Bounty, you have to do Bug Bounty, and you have to create content about Bug Bounty. It's a hard balance. I'm glad to be in the presence of these two who have led that and showed me how to do it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ben. Most of you guys know me online as Nahamsec. Similar to Justin, I've been doing content more full-time now in the last 3 years, but most people that have watched my OG stuff, it's from streaming, hacking companies, and people coming into my Twitch channel saying, that is illegal. That's how I started doing recon, and then I enjoyed doing more content more formally on YouTube and doing presentations at DEFCON and other conferences.
Hey everyone, my name is Katie, also known as InsiderPHD. I make YouTube content. I'm at 91,000 subscribers, so I'm going to get my little plaque soon. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Let's go. So if you could all like and subscribe, that would be great. No, my content is all about the Bug Bounty University course you wish your university offered. So very academic, very slideshowy, very like university education.
Sweet. Thank you for those intros. I want to start at the beginning. Take me back to when you first realized in content creation that you could make a living off of this, or this is something that you wanted to lean into heavily. I'm seeing some chuckles.
Yeah, don't really make a living off of Bug Bounty content, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, it's getting close now, but I think one of the core pieces of critical thinking is we want to be on the front lines doing it actively at a high level. And sometimes we surrender our content for that. And it's a balance. I've got a lot of people on the team that are saying, hey, we could do this, we could do that. This content would really hit. And they're right, but I'm not going to surrender my hacking time for that. So we do the one podcast every week, the hour and a half or whatever, and then we spend the rest of our time popping shells and trying to spend time building quality content for you guys.
I don't think any of us really joined the content creation thing for the monetization. There is no real monetization, honestly. I think I'm just finally making a couple $100 a month from YouTube. And I'm almost at 200K. It doesn't really mean much when it comes to monetization. And it's hard to get sponsors because we're doing bug bounties. There's this company have a bug bounty program that they care about bug bounties and things like that, right? Is it gonna work with our channels? But I think personally I got into it because one, I realized I have a massive platform that I can make a change. And two, at the time when I was doing content, I was also running for a charity event for Leukemia Lymphoma Society, LLS. And the bug bounty community let me front run that, and we raised almost $60,000 donated by hosting the Hong Kong for the first year. So a lot of it was by accident of getting into it, and I don't think it's great. We have a community now. We can monetize some of our content, but not to speak for everybody here, but I think we all agree that we didn't get into this because we thought we're going to make some really good money out of this.
So it will not surprise you to know that that content creation also does not be a living for me either. I actually got demonetized last week, and I was like, oh no, my $20 a month, where is it going to go? And I didn't really care. I very much make my content because I went to a HackerOne live hacking event. I was a mentee, and I had a mentor. It was Justin. Great mentor, by the way. And when I was chatting with some of the other mentees, I realized that I was slightly further ahead. The way I was thinking about my hacking was like slightly different. And I thought, wow, okay, if other people are struggling with this transition, I also want to try and reach more people. So I ended up going, I'll make a YouTube video. And the bug bounty community like showed up and made that video. It was on Burp, blow up. And everyone was so nice to me. Everyone was like so like friendly. And then I never really stopped making content. That was it. The only real change has been doing more in-person stuff, which is nice.
Knowing that you all do it for love of the game, more or less, makes it even better. But I want to talk, I think you alluded to this a little bit, creating content for bug bounty. Justin, I've heard you describe it as a niche within a niche. And I'm sure that as you're creating content and putting so much thought and so much time into that, there could be an urge or maybe even a suggestion from other people to like widen your content a little bit and go a little bit broader and see if you can bring in other people, which of course would affect how this community can get value from your content. So how do you deal with that tension? Can you just give me a few thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is the rub right there. That is really difficult because what will happen sometimes is you'll create some content that's a little bit more tangentially broad, and it'll blow up and you're like, oh, that feels good. And you're like, I want more of that. But then you got to pause for a second and you got to realize like the mission of Critical Thinking Bug Bounty Podcast is very clear, which is to bring high quality, intermediate to advanced tier content to the bug bounty community every single week. The North Star is that an advanced level bug bounty hacker, every episode should walk away with at least one tidbit of information that changes their hacking style in the future. So while it feels really good to get very high view counts, we work in a niche within a niche, and we are ruthlessly trying to stay in that niche. It is a battle, though.
Yeah. The other thing is this is only the beginning of this community. This is the second year of getting a bug bounty village at DEFCON, 2 years in a row. They have fought over having a village for bug bounties for, I want to say, 5-6 years. And the fact that these guys are able to pull it off and we have a space and we have even gotten a bigger space this year is good. It's proof that there is a community that's growing every year and there's more people that are coming to these conferences. And I see new faces and familiar faces every year I come to DEF CON, but now we have a space for ourselves, right? One of the things that people always would tell me when I first started bug bounties or doing my content was like, oh, you got to branch out and you got to branch out. And I did. But then I was like, what is my brand about? And I'm on the flip side of them. My goal was to get people into bug bounties, get them to get their first bounty. And then now it's push them to quit their jobs and do bug bounties, then do it full time or get a supplemental income that could support whatever they're doing. That mission has changed. They're very set on what they want to do. Mine is a journey. Where did I start? What can I teach these people? And I spent a lot of time doing the basics. And now just recently I'm trying to go more on the intermediate side where people can learn all these things, but how do you really make money from doing this? How do you go to the places that you can get you something and makes it more valuable, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I learned that from you, though, because you led the frontier of bug bounty content creation. We talked, we compared notes and stuff like that, and that's why I have the vision that I have. I just want to give you credit for that because that really helped me craft the vision.
Katie, what about you? What is your North Star? What is your sort of mission statement when you're creating content?
So mine is to have 0 subscribers. That is, I want everybody to unsubscribe from my YouTube channel because they don't need me anymore. Like, I want to create the kind of content that helps people get into bug bounty hunting, that helps them find their first bug, and then ultimately they go subscribe to Critical Thinking to get their first crits, right? I very much never want anyone to watch me ever again. And when I come to events, people actually come up to me like, Katie, I used to watch your content. And it sounds really weird. Don't you want people to always watch your content? No, the fact that they've watched my content, they've learned something from it. Maybe they found their first bug. Maybe they've got into an AppSec role. And now they've moved on. Like they don't need me anymore. That is exactly what I want. Like I want to introduce them to the field, get them started, and then ultimately they're good. Like they can do it now and they don't need me.
I've heard you say that line about wanting to have 0 subscribers before, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's knowing your channel so well. I want to pivot a little bit into something I brought up in the intro, which is that the things that I see as being similar between content creation and bug bounty hunting are this need for self-motivation, creativity, and I think also a certain diligence. You got to be doing it constantly, every day. You can't just expect to do it once for a little while and then kind of coast. Obviously, that takes a lot of time. So how do you go about it in your days? Like, how do you schedule that time? What has helped? Are there any words of wisdom that you can share with people who might be trying to balance those two competing needs?
Yeah, you guys can start.
I was gonna say I don't have a schedule for it. Regularly, I have one piece of content every week that comes out. Sometimes I can't say it's because my videographer's here. Sometimes it's every Tuesday, but it gets to like Friday or Saturday some days, and it has to come out on Monday. We have to make it work. I don't have a set schedule because there are times I have life stuff happening. Then I have the life hacking event happening. I have a client pen test. I have to go on a conference. I have to go do X, Y, and Z. I don't have a set schedule. I wish I could say I have that, but when there is time for a life hacking event is when I do have a schedule. It goes hacking, everything else. So, because it's the 10 days that I probably make the most amount of hacking time I can get. It's hyper-focused. I don't have to jump from program to program. I don't have what do I want to hack right now? It's like, you guys at an event, TikTok. I want to find a bug in TikTok. I don't care what it is. I want to get on that leaderboard. I have my objective. So I don't have a good way of doing it. I try to say Tuesdays are my content day, but you make courses. You don't have a day to do it. It's every day. But hacking is one of the things I've realized. I don't need anything, my laptop, maybe Wi-Fi and coffee, and that's it. I'm just going to sit there and it goes by a lot quicker than I expected.
Yeah, I don't. As anyone who knows, who subscribes to me will know, my content has gotten very sporadic. The answer to how I balance it all is that I quit my job. Not my full-time job, my extra job at university teaching students. And I had to, because for me, creating content was more important to me. And that is the only reason that I have a video coming out this week, despite the fact I'm here. So honestly, it's really hard to balance. Stuff does just fall off, and I try the best I can with the time I have, but ultimately I do need to sleep.
Yeah. On the flip side, I do have a set schedule. We release an episode every Thursday. And that, when you do the research, that is how gain a consistent follower base as a podcast. You have to show up consistently every week. And over the course of almost 3 years, we have only missed one release. And that's something we take a lot of pride in. Thanks. And the way that we make that happen is delegation, to be perfectly honest with you. As early on as a couple months in, we realized that we can't run a podcast and also be successful full-time bug bounty hunters because it takes too much. So we started paying editors out of our own pocket and operating the podcast at a loss in the beginning. And then after we started getting support from the community via Discord and getting some sponsors, now we are able to operate at a profit and have four or five team members supplementing the podcast. And I've got it to the point now where I'm only spending 3 to 5 hours a week on the podcast itself, preparing, interviewing guests, coordinating, and then actually doing the episode. And the rest of the team take care of everything else. So I'm so grateful for that. It definitely was difficult, a lot more difficult in the beginning. And I would encourage anybody who is going to go into content creation to try to figure out how to delegate as soon as possible, even if it operates at a loss, because it does affect your longevity, right? I would certainly not be doing critical thinking right now if I didn't have the team behind me that I do. So yeah, and just going to your point though about the live hacking events, it's very hard when you have a set release schedule and you've got a live hacking event. We do our best to get ahead of it, but in those times when logistics come up for critical thinking and I'm in the zone, I'm telling them I'm going to drop the ball. I'm going to drop it because at the end of the day, I can't do content if I'm not performing as a hunter. And so that comes first. And the rest of the team picks up the slack, and I express my gratitude to them, and that's the way that it works, and they know that. But you're right. You've got to drop the ball when you're locked in.
I love the point you made about building teams, about delegating. Ben, Katie, I wonder if you have thoughts on like when you were able to first build a team or delegate or be part of a team, or just, I think it sometimes can seem like, oh, you're just, someone's propping up a camera and like recording, and we know that's just not the case, especially at the rate at which y'all are doing this, the quality with which you're doing it. So would love to hear a little bit about the team behind.
Yeah, so I used to just have Clay's here doing the videos. He would come to my house, set up a camera, and we would record. And then I was like, okay, this takes a lot of time. I got to schedule with you. You got to come over, set up a camera. I got to be ready. We got to record it. Then you got to go home, edit. So I was like, okay, let's set up a camera for me. I'll record. I'll give it to you. You edit. And that alone, just offloading the editing part, I realized that was the most stressful thing, is sitting down and listening to my own voice and looking at my own photo. In the early stages, it's very cringe. It is so, I don't have a problem with it right now. I sit there and I'm like, I can look at myself for 20 minutes, not this thing. Because I could tell I was uncomfortable on camera. So offloading like all the editing process to him. And in the beginning, it was hard because he is not a technical hacker. He's not a hacker. He's not technical, but he's learned through the last years. We've gone from an hour of review now. I review for 10 minutes. Because he knows now when he tells me, I know IDOR. I'm like, okay, relax. Like we have all these things that he has learned, though. It's been a great part of it. I have a hard time offloading things just because I'm also not, I'm not doing a lot of massive research. Or if I do research, then I reach out to people, interview, and my style is completely different than what they do, because every week you have a guest. You have to know your guest. You have to know what to ask them, what their research has been, what you want to learn from them, right? I'm a one-man show. I want to pick this topic. I did this cool thing at an event. I made money from it. You can too, because guess what? I've seen other 20 people do it at the event too. So my system is, what do I do to make money? How can I show them to my viewers, so they can also apply it to themselves? And I also branch out to talking about how to be efficient with what you do. It's not just technical. How do you do efficiency stuff? How do you save money? How do you pay your taxes? How do you do these things that most people don't want to talk about or don't know how to talk about, because it's still, even though it's been 10 years, it is still a new industry. I don't think 5-6 years ago we had more than $10,000 bounties. We would see fans pop in 10K bounties and we'd be like, oh my God, he just made this much money. And then now we have companies like you guys paying 25, 30, 35,000 at these events that you can make a year's salary in 2 days. But that knowledge transfer is a lot harder, that people, I think, get value out of.
I turned my partner into my unpaid intern. He is technical. He's a developer, but he hates it because he says whenever he has to learn about anything security related, it's too annoying for him. And it makes him think about the security that he's doing in his job. And he doesn't like thinking about security because he's a developer. Thank God for him, for like bug bounty, right? We love it. So I actually don't, apart from my partner, I actually don't have a team behind my content. If anyone's getting into video content, the edited Descript, oh my God, incredible. Like the best thing that's ever happened to me and editing. But then for me, quite a lot of my work is like, how do I make my job, my like videos as frictionless as possible for me to create them? Things like creating the slides separately. Like the slides will take 10 days just to make and research and make sure everything's correct. And then recording, get that done in an hour. Then editing, get that done in 4 hours. So the video part of it is actually really quick. The research part of it takes a really long time, especially to get the scope right for a video. But I am on my own. I just figure it out. I did also try and contact an accountant. And I don't know if it's the bug bounty income that did it. The accountants did not want to talk to me. I was like, hey, I'm a YouTuber. I work for a company based in the US. I also do bug bounty hunting. That's where you hack them. And they never replied. I got ghosted by every single accountant I tried to contact. No one wanted to speak to me.
I have one more thing to add on the team side. I have one more team member is ChatGPT, honestly. It is great for rewriting your scripts, honestly. I've been using it, and even I think you and I were talking about it. I was moderating a panel on AI, which I don't expect to be an expert in it, but I'm curious. I sent him the questions to review, and he's not a part of the panel. He goes, holy shit, dude, these are so cool. Like, how'd you come up with it? I go, 2 words, my friend, ChatGPT.
Yeah, I also want to say, of the content creators here, like my job is a lot easier because with a podcast, you just show up and you talk on the fly. I just feel like I'm sitting there chatting to my buddy or asking somebody who I think is really interesting about their life. And then the editors take it and they put a little border around it and that's it. And then we ship it. So I think there's a lot less friction to create a podcast than there is to create videos. And I've tried to do videos and that shit is hard. and massive respect to these two.
But on the flip side of that, I've heard you talk about the limits of audio, right? Because you can't just read out code. There's just a point at which they need to go a step further and maybe go check out other resources that you've put out. But talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really interesting limitation. Another thing that we really want to do, that it's easier to do, talking to more beginner-oriented audiences, is it's very easy to rely on video as a podcast, right? And one of the things that we wanted early in the vision for the podcast is to be able to do it while we're mowing the lawn and washing the dishes and going for a walk and that sort of thing, right? And we don't always nail this. We have succumbed a little bit to this temptation of sharing a couple things on the screen on the podcast. But overall, we try to make it consumable, even for the people that are audio only. But like you mentioned, oftentimes that does look like trying to read out code. But when we do that, we try to give the viewer heads up. We're going to say, okay, guys, we're going to read out some code. Get your mental vision ready. Curly bracket, comma. Okay, hopefully that worked. But I think in the podcast world, while we're covering this deep technical content, we need to try to make it consumable from an audio perspective, which is very challenging and something that I have not figured out.
And this leads into one of my other questions here, which was about channels and platforms and what you've found works and what doesn't. I think Ben and Katie, you're both on YouTube, and you were talking about getting demonetized, but also hitting that 100K mark. How do you decide what platform is for you? Where have you found that your audience is most? Are there any that you're excited about in the future? Some that you're not so excited about that you used to be excited about? What's going on there? And you can talk about TikTok however you want.
So my intention with my content is always to do it long form, because I think you just can't actually learn hacking with short form content. You can be informed of stuff, like you can be aware, but I don't think you actually learn. I don't think you can actually sit down and learn hacking in 30-second chunks as you're sliding across in between videos of people dancing. So for me, I've always very intentionally gone for long form content. I've very intentionally gone for slides because I want it to feel like a university course. I want my content I want people to sit down with a notebook and while they watch my content. I doubt they do, but that's what my intention is. And why YouTube in the first place? I think I come from this generation where when I was a teenager, all my friends wanted to be YouTubers. And I had a bunch of friends who were half successful Minecraft YouTubers. I think I just went for that because I was like, they made content, I can make content, and they can help me. They never helped me.
On the TikTok side, I just got 2 words: community guidelines, man. It's the bane of my existence on that platform. I post about books, community guidelines. Talk about OSINT, community guidelines. Talk about bug bounties, community guidelines. I think I've gotten more community guidelines on my profile than I have videos at the moment. But I think TikTok has changed the way we consume content. The short form content of 1 minute bites that you hook somebody in and you push them to your other platform is something that I use. I know you guys use it on Twitter. I know you guys use it on Instagram and things like that. I personally love the YouTube algo. I've learned how it works. I've learned how to game it. Some people absolutely hate it. It's because you have to do weird thumbnails and put specific keywords on there, and you have to be in a specific time zone of the time of how long your video is. I do a 20-minute technical video, doesn't perform well, and it's one of my best videos I've ever made. But then I do a 11-minute video that talks about something really basic, but it's shorter, it does way better. So I've learned where the balance is, and it makes me excited about that. And before I pass this to you, I love doing Twitch streams. It is a very good way to build a community. I don't know what it is about Twitch, but they have one of the best communities to interact with. They remember you. They come to you. They come say hi to you. You say F's in the chat. Everyone's just spamming F's. It's very interactive, and this is also where I came from, is Twitch, and that's why I have a massive community, is because people got used to talking to me uncut, raw. Some days I'll be really hungover and they'll be like, oh, someone went out drinking last night. And I'm like, all right, these guys know. Yeah, they would know sometimes. And they would be like, oh, you don't seem like you're happy right now. You seem like in a really good mood. I'm like, oh my God, these people actually notice. And they become a part of your community. And that's why I have such a strong Discord, at least. It's because of those days of spending a lot of time interacting. Because when COVID happened, we didn't have this. That's why Nahamcon was born. That's why I did the stuff that I did. Because I couldn't do this anymore, go to conferences. And Twitch was the way to do it. And I was streaming 5 days a week. And it became a mental health issue that I dropped it. But for those 3 years that I did it, it was incredible because I got to do this with every single one of those viewers.
Dude, I have no idea how you did that, man. That's crazy. From a podcast perspective, it's a little bit different, right? We got our Spotify, we got our Apple Music. YouTube obviously is a big piece, but like you said, Katie, it's really hard to learn hacking in 30 seconds. And my social media team is constantly telling me like, hey, Justin, it's long form content. We understand you're on there. You're getting the nuances. You're teasing it all out. But at the end, you need to have the guest reiterate in a short clip, or you need to reiterate in a short clip so that we can convey the main points of what you're teaching to people that consume shorter form content than an hour and a half long podcast, which is long by any standard. So we're definitely using short form media to do that. But as far as other platforms go, I think you mentioned Discord. Discord has been unbelievable for critical thinking. Like the amount of support that we've gotten through the community, and I'm seeing like the two staples of the community right here nodding at it, but it's been unbelievable, and it's a place I want to be. That was what I hoped for, was like, can we build a Discord where we are recreating some of the conversations we're having in person at live hacking events? And dang, we nailed it. And the people in the community are constantly amazing me with the stuff that they're putting out in that Discord, especially the cool research channel where people are just dropping Chrome 0 days and like all sorts of stuff constantly. So definitely going to be pushing into the Discord community, trying to build events for them, trying to serve them in conjunction with continuing to do the podcast on all major podcasting platforms.
I think you both just mentioned with Twitch and Discord highlighted the way in which content creation isn't a monologue, it's a dialogue. I think if you're good at it, you have to be listening to your audience all of the time. And it's incredible to hear that these are the spaces where you do it, right? Everything from getting research to being called out on being hungover. What is something that you have heard from your audience that you've then implemented and changed about your content or done more of, less of?
My original idea with my channel was to help the beginners. I want to go through this journey of setting up everything you need to know, and if you don't know, you can go watch this old stuff, and then go intermediate, and then try and go more on the technical stuff. And it's people wanted a balance. We're like going on one end too much, and then you're going on the other end too much. What about us in the middle? I think finding that balance finally has been a game changer, because I read all my comments. I've learned 20% are always going to be not happy. But the 80% that's there, they're giving me really good feedback. I asked them, like, drop me a comment. Tell me, this video sucks. So I know. I love this video. What else do you want to know? Those comments are really helpful, honestly. And I read a lot of them. Even the negative ones, I go, okay, this comment is like good feedback. And I go, that's great feedback, but is it actionable too? Can you tell me more so I can actually fix this? Or is this more about them than it is about me? But I read all the comments, and I think I get a lot of good conversations around like, hey, explore this one. I just did a video on HTTP request smuggling. They've been asking that forever, and I was like, I don't know how to do it. Finally clicked, and I implemented it as a video, and it was one of our really good performing videos.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've implemented at Critical Thinking is, and I'm looking right here on one of the guys in our QA channel, is a QA channel where we'll release our podcast a couple days in advance to a subset of our audience. And they'll listen through it. They'll give suggestions. They'll say, hey, you missed a bleep here, or something's desynced here. And it has increased our quality a lot. So we listen to all of that feedback. And this conversation also goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is like when we stray from strict technical content to other things. We do make some, I'll disclaim that, we do make some exceptions for bug bounty metagaming, essentially. Like, how do you win in the bug bounty world outside of the technical things? Like, how can you increase your report quality? How can you speak with the team to get how can you advocate for your reports? How can you build more quality POCs? All those are part of bug bounty metagaming, and we do talk about that a good bit. But the main focus is on that technical research, and when we stray, the community tells us. And then we bring that back as the front of the vision, and we move forward with it.
One of the hardest things I've had with my content is that originally when I started, I would be learning the vulnerability, I would be finding it in a program, and then I would be making a video about it. And obviously, as I've got better at hacking, I'm not finding beginner-friendly bugs anymore. And it's really challenging to be making for that beginner audience when you're further and further away from your viewer, right? So that's been really challenging for me, and I have to really make sure that I'm still thinking about that beginner, because I find things really obvious now. Like when it comes to making a video about API hacking, I'm like, I've made dozens of videos about it. Everyone knows API hacking, but there's still folks who need those videos that want a more updated version, that want something a little bit different, something that I find obvious now that I wouldn't at the start. it's been really challenging, and that's really where I've had to like really look at the comments and go, okay, beginners, what do they actually need? Because they do not need me to ramble on about CVEs, to be honest. They're not going to find something like that when they're a beginner.
I just wanted to say something on what Justin highlighted about Discord. It's long live the Discord mods and the people that are reading all the chats, because if it wasn't for the mods and then people that are contributing, even if they're not mods, they're like users that are active on those platforms or on those channels, they're the ones that come to us and say, hey, like, this is a good suggestion that came in, and missed some of those a lot of times. So I just want to highlight any of the Discords you go to, shout outs to the mods, shout outs to the people that are running those Discords, outside of the Discord owners like us that have the Discords. They carry Discord for us. They carry the content. They carry suggestions and cleaning up the chat and making sure people go to the right places. So I just want to make sure I highlight that.
Yeah, and them, the community themselves, carry it themselves as well, which is just unbelievable to see.
Katie, I actually want to lean into a little. So it was something you were talking about. I heard a famous comedian one time, I forget who it was, but say that comedians get worse the more successful they get. Because at the beginning, they're talking about really relatable stuff. And it's, oh, don't you hate it when your wife does this, or when your car breaks down, or when whatever. And then all of a sudden, they're telling jokes up there about, don't you hate it when your private plane isn't quite to your liking. And so I think what you're saying about creating content for beginners and then getting way ahead of that beginner crowd is a really interesting challenge to me. So what are some of the secrets to making sure that you're still in touch with that audience?
That's a really good example. I'll highlight what really Ben and Justin have said here, which is you have to listen to your community. And you know what? I have videos flop all the time. Like, I put out a video and it sucks. And like, I'll read the comments, they'll tell me it sucks. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I missed the mark there. The only thing you can do in that situation is take a step back, reflect on what you're doing, and move forward. My best performing videos have been about note taking. Like, they are by far my most popular videos, which is weird, right? But this is something that beginners really struggle with, because actually when you look at a real website and you look at all the requests it's making, it's very overwhelming and people don't know where to start. And so I always try, when it comes to my content, to pick a really big public program that I think folks might be familiar with, or maybe like a VDP that people like to submit to. And then I'm like, okay, what would this look like if I was a beginner? Like, how would I approach this? And try and go from that to think about what that would have been like for me. But honestly, it's a lot of listening to that community.
I think there's multiple sides to that coin, though, Katie, and so I'll disagree a little bit. And I think that as you continue to grow as a hacker, I think it's really important to still be reporting the things that beginner hackers are reporting. One of my best bugs at this last live hacking event was a textbook IDOR in the beginning of the application. There's a very specific brand of hacker where as they get more technical prowess, they go for the crazier bugs with the crazier bounties, and I totally respect those people. But it looks more like security research to me than bug bounty. And as a bug bounty hunter, I don't want to leave money on the table.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm actually in the middle of the two here, because I try to do both, right? Both ends of it. I get a lot of crap for this, actually, a lot of times with comments. It's, oh, you're glorifying bounty amounts. No, I'm inspiring people to see, dude, I just made this on a public program, or I just found these series of really basic vulnerabilities that people are scared to look for on these massive programs. Actually, I don't know if Javox is here. I think he was in here earlier. He's one of the people that watched some of my content, and his first bounty was $25,000 from Netflix. It's his first bounty. I wish he was here. I ran into him earlier, and things like that you see and you go, and he's found some really crazy vulns, but it's, you gotta, when you say you're not relatable to people, perfect, that's fine. Not everyone's gonna say I made X amount of dollars a month. It's not to glorify it, though. It's just to show you, I've come from a very similar background to most people. All of us come from a similar background, and we put in the work, and it is an achievement that you can also achieve. And I've seen people like him do it. And for a while, I was like, do I put these bounty amounts in there? And I get the hate for it, but then I realized, no, I'm getting these messages from people like him. And he's one of the many that has done that. And I realized, no, there is a way you can leverage those bounty amounts or the basic vulnerability to teach them the ways to get to the point that you have gotten. Either they could go full send it to get to where you are, or they can get to a certain extent that they're happy with the outcome of their work.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I think that some content creators are thermometers and some are thermostats, right? A thermometer takes the temperature of the room and says, okay, this is what people I think want, and then so I'm going to try to give it to them. A thermostat sets the temperature of the room. And I think in your case, it'd be like, this is where I am with bug bounty hunting. This is what I'm looking for. And I'm going to package it in a way that is like accessible to everyone who's listening to me, but It comes from my reality and my lived experience. And I think all three of you are at thermostat standard where you're saying the things that you want to be saying. I want to change gears a little bit and just ask really quickly, who is making content right now that inspires you? Not someone on this stage. And if it's someone outside of the bug bounty space, that is also great. Just someone who makes content that you're like, that's sick. I love watching that.
Do you have anything?
I need to think.
So I started watching a lot of Matt Davella videos. Anyone know who Matt Davella is? He's like I did this thing for 30 days. I take cold showers every morning for 30 days. And you go, why? I watch a lot of his videos. Iman Ghazi has been one that you understand, like, how are you making content that's still relatable? You have also people like David Bombo, Network Chuck, that are here. They're doing similar stuff, where they're doing something massive in their field, and they have figured out a way to talk to their audience, to talk to the audience outside of their community. That I watch, and it may not be relatable to me, but I watch and go through people like him. Yeah, we are directly in the same community, but I watch some of the stuff they do, and I go, wow, very clever. How can we push this to the next level? Whether it's we do it together, we do it in parallel, or I like to take inspiration from people that are good. That's what my entire career has been. I see these people making these bounties. I want to do something similar. And it's the same thing with content. But those are the four that I would say: Matt Davella, Iman Ghazi, and then I know Network Chuck was somewhere here, hopefully still here. And also David Bombo has been a good one to watch, just grow as a community.
For me, it's been a lot of journalists. So NPR, Planet Money, I really like the storytelling approach. And I think that it really works. So for me, tons of journalists, tons of people who just tell interesting stories and can just get across any idea because it's a story, and you don't even realize you've learned something because you were too busy listening to the story. Cyber News at the moment on YouTube is doing exactly that. It's telling interesting stories, Darknet Diaries as well, like for specific cybersecurity stuff. But yeah, for me, it's really journalism.
Yeah. In the podcast space, I think it's a little bit of a different world, but we learn a lot. Ben just mentioned this as well from Alex Hormozi and his content creation. I also have like a podcast role model in this podcast called My First Million, which is a business podcast. And one of the things I really appreciate about that podcast is how much energy the guys bring into every episode. And that's definitely my vibe. But they're also addressing something at a lower level. They're getting into the details of how these multi-billion-dollar businesses typically are being built. I take a lot of inspiration from that. The Lex Friedman podcast is very interesting, but the guy is just so monotone. Like I want Lex Friedman technical depth with My First Million energy for our niche, and that's some of the inspiring pieces of critical thinking. And then Hormozi comes in with how he runs his whole content world.
I think speaking about energy, and you were talking about earlier, like how personal it can be on Twitch, leads me into another question I have, which is you're kind of giving people a peek into your world. And Katie, when we were talking before the podcast, you said, I want people to know about the people behind the screen names. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. Like, how do you take care of yourselves, or how do you show up as your whole self, even when you're not having a high energy day, even though you want to have a high energy podcast? What have been the challenges there, and what have been the successes? What do you want to say about the person behind the screen name?
I think what everybody should know, and this is true of basically anyone who's like a public figure, is it is all fake. Like, I cannot tell you how much of a fraud all of our like personas are, and they are just that, they're personas. I think a lot of people forget that we are just regular human beings. Like, we do have moments where we don't really want to talk to anybody, or when we're a bit annoyed, and we still have to come up on stage and give talks and have a good energy. And it is an algorithm we follow, right? It's something learned. It's something that you get to over time. It's like a persona you develop. While we try and show, I think, our most authentic selves, they're always going to be curated a little bit. They're going to be, even if we feel a bit bad, more energetic. And I completely agree. I think you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to think about the mental health, and you've got to give yourself time to decompress, especially if you're on for multiple hours. I'll say this, that I will tell you that both Ben and Justin are very different in live hacking events than they are on video, or even as they are in this room. Like, I have seen Ben sit there and focus, and I've seen Justin become like an ultimate hype man. So it's a curated personality, but we all have that. The personality you bring to DEFCON is not the same one you bring to your work, is it?
Yeah, I think you try to show up as your best version of yourself for sure. But I think I try to bring that transparency to the pod as well, because it's a part of the bug bounty journey. If any of you guys have listened to the episodes, you'll know I'll start off an episode sometime. I'm like, man, this week has been rough, dude. Here's these dupes that I got, and my shoulder is dislocated. And you try to come up authentic. And I have that luxury as a podcaster because I'm not putting out a video that has a specific title and goal and stuff like that. I'm putting out a relationship every week with you guys. So I think in the podcast world, we do get the luxury of being able to show up as our authentic selves a little bit more. But man, every episode, I'll be honest with you guys, I stand before the mic, and Rezo and I have started doing a little prayer in our head beforehand and out loud. And then I start bouncing and I start going like this, and I go like this. And then I turn on the pod, and then we go, right? And sometimes we even cut it into the pod a little bit, where I'm bouncing in the beginning. I'm like, all right, let's go. And it's a part of bringing that energy. So I think we all have our own routines we bring in to try to show up as the characters, as the people that we want to be. But I think it's also, I'm so grateful that I have the luxury of being authentic in the podcast space, because we do have that release cycle, and we do have a more general concept.
For the YouTube, I really don't have to do much. It's sometimes if I don't feel like recording, oh my God, I'm not recording today. I message videographer, go, yep, tomorrow, and then tomorrow turns to the next day, and then sometimes the next day, and Sunday night we're cramming it to get it out on Monday. Outside of that, though, I have been a big advocate for just mental health in general. I've openly talked about the things that I struggle with sometimes. I don't think people want to. It's one of those, I don't want to say taboo, but it's something that people aren't proud to talk about. I've done videos on it. I've tweeted like, hey, not making a video because I'm going through some stuff right now. And I just tweeted, dude, I've been taking L after L for the past 2 months, and I don't know what I'm doing at this point. I haven't put a video out for a month, and then I have my things that I go back to recharge, whether it's to disconnect and go on a vacation or start journaling heavier and things like that. I have a different approach to it with Twitch. I was very open. People could see it in my face when I was going through stuff. And I've made plenty of videos because it is something that nobody wants to talk about. Most of us struggle with anxiety and depression and those sorts of things. For most of us, hopefully it's temporarily, right? But no one wants to talk about it. And I've tried to make it a thing where at least once a year, we put a piece of video out that talks about addressing it, especially during Men's Mental Health Month. Yeah. And we do that every year, and we partner with somebody like a Headspace or something like that. I know Michael was here somewhere. They helped us out, get some codes out to everybody. It was unlimited. So everyone could get a month or two for free. So I'm a big advocate of it. I openly talk about it. And just like they said, I try to be myself because it's exhausting to be somebody else you're not. Yeah. Because that version of me on camera has to match who I am at the conferences. Obviously, times like this, I'm a lot lower energy because I'm tired. I know I've had 3 back-to-back sessions, and also, even though I look like an outgoing person, I have a very limited social battery now as I've gotten older. So I've learned to just accept it and submit to it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, but I really do. I appreciate how you did that, and like how you tweet out about things like that, because I know it is difficult in the YouTube world to get that integrated in, and I imagine it must have been tricky for you switching from Twitch streams, which is much more like a podcast, right? Where you can be there, present, sharing about yourself, to videos, right? But then you supplemented that with, hey, let me interact with the community via Twitter, via Discord, and say, hey, this is what's going on in my personal life, so that you still have that personal connection.
A lot of times what I see is people that are following us on Twitter and YouTube or whatever platform is, their life is perfect. It's easy for you to say this. And I'm like, no, dude, like, you don't know what's going on in my personal life. I'm not going to go and do the approach of saying, oh, bug bounty is a scam because X, Y, and Z happened. It happens. It's a part of the game. I accept it. Sometimes I get pissed off, and I think you see once a year I'll tweet about a company that pisses me off, and it goes on, then I regret it later. But I also do it so people will see, look, I don't get special treatment because I have this brand or because I have this, because that's what people think. So that's why I tweet these things like, hey, my life sucks right now, but I'm still showing up to work. I'm still showing up to hacking. I'm still doing content for everybody. And it's not always like rainbows and sunshine.
I completely agree. People do actually think that we just can contact every program as soon as we have a problem, and that we never get duplicates, or we never get bugs that are NA, or we never have to contact mediation, for example. That always happens to us. I think the real difference between us and perhaps other people is we just accept it. It happens. I've had a bug that was in dispute because the triager couldn't reproduce it, and I answered them. They still couldn't reproduce it, and I was like, I don't know why. So I'll just, okay, fine, just mark it as no NA, I guess.
Yeah, mid 5 figures of dupes this week, guys. Feeling great about bug bounty right now.
But I think that's great. Showing up authentically, especially when you're telling people, hey, this is something you might want to do professionally. If it's beginners, then you can't just show the wins, right? You have to show the whole part of it. So we have about 10 minutes left. If there are questions in the audience, I'd be happy to take some. I could ask questions till the cows come home, but wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks, guys. What can educators and academics who are in a classroom setting take from your style to help their students learn bug bounty?
So I will give you a little bit of an insight because I used to work at a university. We used to do a survey every year, and every single year, literally every single response would be that lectures are not engaging. And I think that especially nowadays when we have like really good content creators on YouTube, you have to be engaging. It's not enough just to monotonely stand at the front with some slides and be like, blah, 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 blah. Cross-site scripting is just... It's not enough. You have to find a way to make that interesting. And I really think educators don't even try. Like, they have just accepted this is the way things are. But I think nowadays students have much more expectation of interesting, engaging storytelling. And certainly, like, when I'm speaking to my students, they're like, Katie, you're the best lecturer. And I'm like, great. It's because I make YouTube videos.
I don't know if this would directly answer it, but when I was working at HackerOne, we did it. I saw him do it 2016 was, I think University of Berkeley was getting a speaker every week to go and talk about bug bounties for a very, I think it was like web hacking related course. And the goal of the end of the course was if you found, I think, a vulnerability or many vulnerabilities, it was extra credit towards your score. And I'd never seen a classroom so engaged in my life, honestly. And it was great. And people were asking good questions, and people were actually going and hacking on VDPs. And the goal was you have to just get a valid vulnerability in.
Yeah, give them 20% on their final grade if you can pop a bug. Like, that's very impressive.
I'm going to shout out one of my students. So I taught a web hacking course this year. So I started it in January. It finished in May-ish time. And one of my students was so motivated from this that he actually started bug bounty hunting. He found his first bug. His first bug was an IDOR. I hadn't even taught the class on IDORs yet. And he is smashing it. Like, I have been genuinely like amazed by what he's doing. So I also did when I was teaching. I couldn't do this because the university has rules, but I really wanted to offer them the chance to hack my grading system. And if they could change their grade to be an A, I'd give them the A, because there is nothing that says, hey, you learned web security like hacking my online grading system that I use. So that was definitely something I tried to do.
I'm looking at a person in the audience that has done that. Yeah, I think my advice would be to do it yourself as well. Like, I think the best teachers are the ones that are actively hacking. It's very hard, right? It's very hard to do. But if you're out there finding vulnerabilities yourself, you're going to bring that level of energy to the classroom where you're like, guess what I found last week? And you're going to be living it. You'll also be evolving with the industry as things change. And those are two very hard things to do in this world, teaching web hacking while you're simultaneously doing it. So that would be my advice, though.
Oh, do we have a question up here? Let's go with this one.
So talking about content creation with security, there are lots of topics. So how do you decide on a topic? Because I imagine it might be tricky with what's going on, what's trending, and what personally you are interested in.
Personally, for me, it's two things. One is something cool that I have done that I want others to learn, and also the trends and the things that I see that's coming out. DEFCON right now is a great place. Going back, I feel like every DEFCON talk that I've liked could become a video. It could become a lab. It could become something that I put out, right? So those two are the things that I go to. If I come back from a live hacking event, I see a technique, I either reach out to them, can I make a lab out of this and you come and teach it to me and people could learn from it? But then two, just seeing what's coming out. Is there a CVE? Is there a new Vuln class or a technique that just came out that I could learn? And my whole thing is I want to learn the things that I don't know and teach it, because my whole thing is if you can teach it to somebody else, you have mastered that vulnerability or that technique. Those are the way I do it.
For me, it's really based on what I'm finding. I want to make sure that my content is always grounded in stuff people can actually find. So I don't tend to follow trends so much as like where my own interest level is and what I can realistically find on public programs so other people can do it themselves.
Yeah, it's very much what is got me excited right now. And it comes from having that your finger on the pulse of the community. So you need to be in the Discords, at the live hacking events if possible, seeing what kind of stuff is coming through at the bleeding edge, and then you make content about that. And it's a little bit of a weird thing with Bug Bounty. I'll move the topic a little bit, but Bug Bounty is very competitive, especially the live hacking events. When I told my dad I was going to do a podcast about Bug Bounty, he was like, Justin, you're going to go on there every week and you're going to spill the secrets that are making you a lot of money. And I was like, yep, that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's a very odd juxtaposition that I was able to learn how to hack from people like Ben and Jason Haddock and Tommy. We're all standing on the shoulders of giants in this industry, and it fuels your desire to give back, I think, even if that affects you financially. And if you get to the point where you're succeeding in Bug Bounty, I think the financial piece becomes less of a concern and a motivation because you're making a sufficient amount. And so I just always have been amazed by the fact that bug hunters share so willingly, and they will come even on my podcast, right? They'll come on my podcast and spill secrets, not even making their own content. So really blessed to be a part of this community. You guys are amazing, and I so appreciate what you guys share.
So I think that willingness to share is something that I've seen in the bug bounty community and been really impressed by. Like the teaching, it doesn't just happen on YouTube; it happens like at a live hacking event in person. And I'm sure that's something that can translate really well into content creation. That's what it's all about, sharing what you know and mentoring and supporting. I think this will be a last question, but think about something that goes the other way. Is there anything that you all have learned from content creation that you've applied to bug bounty hunting?
I think I'm always going to say this is consistency. I always have to be consistent with hacking, with creating content. It's all muscle memory. If I'm not hacking X amount of days a week, 4 weeks go by, it's a lot harder to get into it. It's the same thing with content. I've learned if I'm not making content for 3 weeks, I get back on camera and I'm like, is this thing on? Is my audio working? Is like, how do I even talk anymore? So I think it's just doing it, just building the muscle memory. It's applicable to both of it, honestly. You have to do it.
Answer. Yeah, that's spot on, dude.
I'm gonna disagree. For me, it's experimentation. I found that I was really focused on APIs, and they're good places to hack. They make money, but for me to really grow as a hacker, I really needed to get out of that and actually try experimenting, especially nowadays when you've got AI. For the longest time, I was like, I'm not going to look at AI. I'm still looking at APIs. And now I'm like, okay, I need to experiment. I need to learn this. The same for content, right? You can't just make the same video again and again, despite how much your followers want you to do that. You have to experiment. And I think that's how you grow as a creator and grow as a hacker.
That's a great answer as well. Yeah, I think in line with what Ben said, it's perseverance. In the content creation world, you see your reception with the community go like this a lot. And when you're at the bottom, it's like, all right, man, am I just going to keep doing this? And yeah, the answer is you show up every day and you keep doing it and you keep learning and you keep pushing. And same thing with Bug Bounty. You slam your head up against a target and you slam your head up against a target. And if you're not freaking XSS Doctor or whatever those people are that find stuff immediately, Archangel, on a target, you're going to be sitting there slamming your head up against the target for a little while before you find a bug. And I think perseverance definitely is something that's cross-correlated. It's a cheap answer to your question because I learned that from hacking and then applied it to content creation. So it's inversed, but they're definitely cross-applicable.
In this last question and throughout the panel, all I wanted to highlight was that there is a little bit of a connection there. It is permeable, the boundary. But as I said at the onset, I was just so excited for this conversation. I think when I pitched it, it was just a little bit selfish. It was a conversation that I wanted to have, and the fact that we got to do it in front of an audience was even better. But on behalf of the community, I just want to thank you all for sharing so much in this last hour, and as we've been talking about, just across your whole career. And I think that the Bug Bounty Village, the Bug Bounty community is much better for it. So thank you to the three of you.
Thanks for moderating, man. Those questions were spot on. I was like, very good. We have no stickers left. I'm sorry.